Takes 7 days to file defense to the local government autonomy suit instituted by the federal government of Nigeria. Rivers State High Court bars Speaker Martin Zamehule-led faction of the Rivers State House of Assembly from parading themselves as members of the State House of Assembly. Labour, federal government and private sector to resume minimum wage negotiations on Friday. And now let's take headlines from outside Nigeria. Tonight, a vote count underway amid high turnout in South Africa. U.S. sanctions Uganda's parliament speaker and others over corruption and rights abuses. Those are the headlines we're monitoring at this hour. Well, tonight on Politics HQ, as Nigeria's judiciary fed 365 days into the presidency of Bola Tinubu. We have a comprehensive conversation on this ahead on the program tonight. My name is Kofi Bartels. Politics HQ starts now. You're welcome. Tonight, assessing President Bola Tinubu's administration's performance as far as the judiciary in Nigeria is concerned. Let's begin by going down memory lane. The president, while declaring open the National Summit on Justice in April this year, implored the nation's judiciary to embark on reforms that will ensure a functional justice system that will support a rapidly growing economy. Those were the president's words. That will also guarantee basic human and political rights of individuals, as well as provide security and justice to all Nigerians. It's the president's words. Now, some achievements over the past months listed by the Tinubu administration as far as the judicial sector are concerned, the third arm of government, include, number one, making funding of the judiciary a top priority. Now, they also say they doubled funding to the judiciary in the 2024 budget by more than 100% if you compare it to last year's budget. Also, the administration touts the full complement of 21 justices of the Supreme Court as required by law. This is the first time this has happened in many years as one of the achievements of Tinubu in the judiciary. You have 21 full justices. And also, they tout the approval of a substantial increase in the salaries and emoluments of judges, which is currently undergoing a legislative action. It's about 800% increase in the salary of judicial officers, as stipulated by the Constitution. We'll look at that later. Also, following up from the assent to a constitutional alteration bill that provided for financial autonomy of state judiciary, if you remember that, also state legislature, under the past administration of Muhammadu Buhari, former president of Nigeria. The current president, Tinubu, in June last year, 2023, signed another constitutional alteration bill which provides a unified retirement age for all judicial officers of superior courts of record. Now, it further provides that all pensions, all allowances, and other retirement benefits of judicial officers shall be charged to the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation and paid directly by the National Judicial Council, the NJC. So that's another achievement that the administration touts. Now, the issue of conflicting judgments, especially in matters related to politics, reared its head again in the ongoing Kano Emirship tussle we all aware about, where conflicting and confusing injunctions and orders were granted by courts of coordinate jurisdiction. The Federal High Court, the Kano State High Court, it's all confusing. Now, in relation to this, the National Judicial Council yesterday announced in a press release that, quote, sickle to the conflicting judgments emanating from the Federal High Court and the Kano State High Court of Justice on the chieftaincy matter. In Kano State, the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria and the National Judicial Council, Honorable Justice Olukaide Ariwola GCON, has summoned the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Honorable Justice John Cho, OFR, and the Chief Judge of the Kano State High Court, Honorable Justice DJ Aboki, for an emergency meeting in his chambers. Today, Thursday, May 30, 2024. Now, the meeting, which is a prelude to the whole-scale investigation by the National Judicial Council, is to enable the Honorable Chief Justice, according to that press release, have a proper briefing on this very disturbing development by the two respective judges. Now, they also say that there is a strong indication that the NJC will conduct an emergency meeting next week where the subject judges are likely to be invited, 3 judges, and subjected to serious investigations. We await the outcome of that. Now, how has the judiciary fared under President Bola Tinubu's first 365 days? It's not just enough for the administration to tout achievements. We have guests, analysts tonight who will do justice and break down and give their opinion on whether or what those achievements are. Let's start by introducing a lawyer, public affairs analyst, an opinion molder and shaper, Liborous Oshoma. He joins us via video link. We also have another lawyer, Jibrin Okutepa, is a senior advocate of Nigeria, also joining us via video link from Abuja. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you on the program tonight. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Kofi.
Yes, it's good to see you. You've been pretty busy, recent weeks, and of course, talking for national development. Thanks for joining us, out of your busy schedule.
Yes, my pleasure.
Yes,
My
indeed.
pleasure.
Yes. All right. Liborous, what's your assessment of the third arm of government in the first full year of the Bola Tinubu administration? But Liborous, hold the thought. We'll come to you. We'll just take a quick break, and we'll come and take your thoughts on that question. For those of you watching, please stay with us. Welcome back. Let's move straight to that conversation on the judiciary in the first 365 days of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's presidency. We're looking at the judiciary and the rule of law. Liborous Oshoma, your assessment of the third arm of government and indeed the rule of law in the first 365 days of Tinubu's administration.
Yeah, thank you, Kofi. Like I said, yes, I think while it is good to say, yeah, for the first time you have 21 justices of the Supreme Court, you have an increase in the budget of the judiciary, you have the salaries and the pension of the judiciary charged to members of the judiciary charged to the consolidated revenue fund, which ordinarily is supposed to be the case. You also have a situation where there's a unification of the retirement age. All of these really fall flat in the face of the major problem facing us in the judiciary. And you just cited the NJC, the proposal that NJC might likely sit next week, to look at these issues of conflicting judgment. Even before now, despite the fact that there have been complained that, oh yes, the judiciary is not paying well. Kofi, anytime there is a list of judges to be appointed, go and check that list. You see names of children of former judges, wives of serving judges, sons of serving and retired judges. So if it is not lucrative, why are those people who are already there struggling for their children to replace them or take over from them? You understand? So the question has never really been, yes, we agree that the judiciary should be well funded, it should be independent and insulated from the other arms of government. But the judiciary, the major problem of the judiciary is that it needs self-cleansing. When we talk about, you remember during the crisis between Justice Ayo Salami and the former Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Kosina Alu, these people, this set of people who are in government today, they were in opposition, ACN there, queried the fact that the CJN as president of, as Chief Justice of the Federation and as the head of the judiciary, that the enormous power he has to appoint members of the judiciary, members of the NJC, should be whittled down. I expected that, the first year in office of Mr. President, that should be one of the recommendations, for constitutional amendment. And secondly, also, that the NJC, as they have mooted before now, that the NJC also should not be sitting on ad hoc basis, so that the issue of discipline of judges would be on the top burner. So because where there is lack of discipline, impunity reigns supreme. This idea of giving conflicting judgment and then it takes the NJC being an ad hoc committee, it takes them time to leave their busy schedule to come and down sit and then take decisions, and then it takes them time, and then they issue queries, and at the end of the day, it gradually erodes the confidence of the people in the judiciary. So if you also have members, retired judges also, who have served their time in the judiciary and who feel and believe that the judiciary is no longer what it used to be, sitting on that committee, then there is no string attached to dispense favor to colleagues. So all of this, we're still battling with that same consistent NJC of one man appointing 85 members of the committee, of the commission, and then having to sit on ad hoc basis, and then erring judges are asked to go and sin no more, if at all they are asked to go and sin no more. And then you have allegations of bribery and corruption against senior advocates, and they are swept under the carpet. No matter how much and then you still have the issue of cases having to spend 3-4 years in court, cases having to spend years at the Supreme Court. At the end of the day, if you have 50 judges at the Supreme Court, once cases are still spending donkey years in that place, the ordinary man would tell you that nothing had been said. So that is why we would say, yes, the administration has started from somewhere, yes, low-hanging fruits, but some of us expected much more from the administration on the basis of their criticism and the principles that they projected while they were in opposition, which I am not seeing.
All right. Talking about the National Judicial Council and talking about the fact that they're not going hard or tough on judges and maybe they sit out on ad hoc basis and all that, it could be argued that the NJC has been actively disciplining judges, because recently as 17th of May 2024, the NJC issued a warning letter to 3 judges and barred them from elevation to higher bench for a period. It also empaneled committees to investigate 8 judges of the federal and state courts and appointed 86 judicial officers for federal and state courts. So that's an example of some of the disciplinary actions taken by the NJC recently.
Look, Kofi, the problem is more than you're saying it. The problem is much more than you're saying it. So that is why when the NJC, it's like an organization that hardly bites, when they back, everybody's happy, like, they've done something. Look, let me tell you, if you read the book, Places, Faces, and Cases by Justice Fatai Williams, there were days when judges would sit down, start a matter on Monday, and deliver judgment on Friday. If you read the case of Omoboreowo and Ajasin, Justice Orojo, the Election Petition Tribunal in then Ondo State, started sitting on Monday, and by Sunday, their judgment was delivered. So now, the days of the NJC, you have a complaint against 30 judges, then you issue query to 3, and then you give reprimand to 1 or 2, and then we say, yes, they've done something. We're not saying they're not doing anything, but what I am saying is that if you have a more robust NJC that sits regularly and take up issues as they come, but then he said, when a judge sits on trial, the judge is on trial. But unfortunately, what you have today is when a judge sits on trial, it is the rest of the world, the court of public opinion. Some of them don't even know their right from their left. That's why during the Election Petition Tribunal, people conflated the issues. A lot of people had eyes on the judiciary. Meanwhile, they thought they had eyes on the judiciary. They were looking in different directions.
Okay.
Because there was so much sentiment. But if you have a body like the NJC, a robust, more expanded, that sits regularly, that's able to put its eyes on the judiciary, we want to have, as the others are coming, you don't need to wait for the CGN to begin to invite the Chief Justice of the Such Federation of such contest. So the judges that are issuing those orders immediately will be summoned.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to the issue of conflicting judgments, but I want to introduce Jibrin Okutepa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Jibrin, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
All right. In the first 365 days of the Tinubu presidency, has the judiciary truly been the last hope of the common man?
I don't know whether I want to be lured into answering that question of how judiciary has been the common hope of common man for the 365 days of Tinubu's presidency. I think we should ask a much more deeper question than that. Given what we are seeing now, does the Nigerian judiciary the hope of the common man? It is, yes, they are the hope of the common man by the provisions of our law. But as to whether that being hope of common man is practically the situation is a difficult question for me to answer. You know it, and a lot of things are happening. A lot of people are complaining. Things are not working the way it should. The judgment coming out of some of our courts are judgments that are absolutely devoid of the basis of judgment, which is justice. So there are controversies there and there. The general public, who are the consumers of justice, are complaining, and everybody is complaining. Lawyers are complaining. There are a lot of so many controversies in the justice sector, in the legal profession, and everything seems to be heading towards what looks like a very dangerous, comatose situation. So I will not be in a position to say that all is well. There are good judges, no doubt. But is there environmental hygiene that gives them the privilege and opportunity to do their work unhindered, uninterrupted, uninterfered with? The processes of justice is not just beginning and ending with judgments in courts.
All right.
What is our recruitment process? Who do we recruit to the bench? What are the characters of men and women that we have taken to the bench? What has been the influence of the political class and Nigerian politicians on our recruitment process? How free are judiciary in terms of remuneration, in terms of the money that they have, in terms of how independent they have? How free are they? So those are questions that Nigerians should be interested in asking, and you people, the journalists, the fourth estate of the rim, should be in a position to dig deeper and find out whether indeed we can say that all is well with our judicial system and indeed the legal profession.
All right. Jibrin Okutepa, you talked about how well are they remunerated and how free are they. Before I go back to Liborous Oshoma, let's look at some of the achievements, put forward by the administration and those who speak for them as the achievements in the judiciary or the judicial sector. For instance, the increased funding for the judiciary in the 2024 budget by more than 100%. That's something touted by the administration. Also, we can look to the bill sent to the National Assembly by Mr. President in March, requesting the Senate in particular to consider an executive bill seeking to review the salaries, allowances, and of officials, or official benefits, rather, of judicial officers. And we expect that to be passed in early June. Now, the President, in his letter to the National Assembly, he said that he believes that this review of the salaries, allowances, and official benefits of judicial officers will promote independence of the Nigerian judiciary system. That's what he said. Do you agree that this will be the case when that bill is passed next month, as you expect?
That is the belief of Mr. President. But as to whether that increment in the salaries of the judicial officers will solve the political interference with judicial decisions is another ball game altogether. Let's not deceive ourselves. When judges were not well paid, we have judicial officers of impeccable characters who saw appointment to the bench as a call to duty. We had those judges that had strength of characters. They were integrity driven, and they can say no to even those who appointed them. So I think that Mr. President and all of us need to go back to the basis of why we have a dwindling image of our judiciary. And I think that the first fundamental restructuring we need to do is to look at the kind of people we recruit and become judicial officers at the various tiers of government. I mean, judicial our courts. So we need to look at that. Two, those who are politicians should allow our judiciary to do what they were set up to do by the Nigerian Constitution. I think that the Nigerian politicians have had too much overbearing on the Nigerian people, on the Nigerian judiciary.
All right.
And for Nigerian politicians, there is no boundary. But we that operate in the legal profession, we have code of ethics and code of conduct. They should allow us to do what we need to do. And for those who are lawyers and are politicians, they must make a demarcation between their political interests and their duty to justice. So for me, increasing the salary of judicial officers is an infinitesimal improvement. What about the people who work with the judicial officers?
All right, well, I'll take your thoughts on that when we come back from our break, SCN. And of course, Liborous, I want to follow up with you because the SCN has said, that he's given his views on whether this should truly make the judiciary independent. Liborous, you talked about the attractiveness, that if it wasn't attractive, will some of these politicians pushing their wives, daughters, and their friends there? I'll take your thoughts on that when we come back from the break. It's still Politics HQ right here on News Central Television. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We still have Liborous Oshoma, legal practitioner, and another lawyer, Jibrin Okutepa, senior advocate of Nigeria, right here on Politics HQ. Mr. Oshoma, your thoughts on this issue of promoting the independence of the judiciary by increasing their salaries, as written or mentioned by President Bola Tinubu in his letter to the Senate. You talked about the lucrativeness of that sector despite the poor emolument. Tell us some more about that.
Yes, like I said before, the problem really is not about, yes, you can say the salaries is going to increase, the take-home of judges, but the problem really has never been about salaries and emolument because, like I said, if it was about salaries and emolument, you will not see judges, politicians, and all of that turning the judiciary into, it's almost like it's not just sexually transmitted, also hereditary. You see retired judges, their daughters and sons are elevated to the bench. You see politicians' wives are elevated to the bench. Politicians' children are elevated to the bench. In some cases, for the past 5 years now, at every turn, anytime there is a list of appointment for judges, you will always get one petition or the other from somebody's, querying the rationale for appointing those members. Because unlike those days when it was reserved for the best, was reserved for people who truly merited it and who would go there not for the pecuniary gain, but to dispense justice. Now it is about, oh yes, you look good in the uniform or in the garb. You look good to dispense justice. And then we now use the issue of salaries and emoluments, to create that facade around it, to give the impression that, yes, it's just all about salaries and emoluments. If a situation where somebody said something that the registrar of the Supreme Court was investigated for, I think, about 2 billion naira was discovered in his account. There were insinuations that some of this money maybe, just maybe, that the man might be warehousing money for some person inside the bank. At the end of the day, what became of that investigation? There are also cases where there was sting operations and judges' houses were raided and monies were discovered in foreign currencies and the rest. And at the end of the day, what became of all of this matter? So a situation where whether you increase salaries or reduce salaries, you have politicians that are ready to dish out foreign currencies to curry just judgment in their favor. And then you have people who can't stand their ground in situation. Let me give you an example with Edo State, for example. Contrary to the provisions of Section 91 of the Constitution, that every House of Assembly must have at least 24 members and not more than 40 members. For 4 years, Edo State had less than 9 members of the State House of Assembly. And do you know that for 4 years, that matter was passed amongst 9 judges and never came up for mention because the government was interested in the matter. We've seen situations where, it's almost as if now, when people about Kano, conflicting order, you get this order there, the other one goes to get another. There were times when the PDP was in crisis. Abuja High Court a federal High Court in Abuja will give judgment today. Another one in Port Harcourt will give another judgment. Court of Coordinate Jurisdiction. We've seen where Court of Coordinate Jurisdiction are giving conflicting orders consistently. So the first question is, like the learned speaker said, how are people appointed to the bench? The bearer is from me. Don't worry, he will cope. In some cases, it is who know man, who do you know? And people who are appointed to the bench, how are they disciplined? Before we go to talk about a monument, a situation where it takes the NJC time to sit. And then when they finally sit, depending, there are some people who are untouchables, whether you like it or not. So, and then also, thank God the learned sick is there. Justice Kayode Esho once said, and I quote him, behind every allegation of bribery against a judge, there's a senior advocate who is a conveyor belt. So in all of this, it's all a potpourri of so many issues. We can blame the
Jibrin, thank you, Liborous. Jibrin, do you agree with what he said, quoting, the learned lawyer there, or judge, whoever it was he mentioned? Oh, judge, yes. Okay, Justice Osho. That behind every allegation of bribery, there's a senior advocate of Nigeria who serves as a conveyor belt.
I'm not a conveyor of bribe, and I do not intend to do it, and I will not do it. But there are allegations that are beginning to gain credence. And I think that is why those who have following me have consistently said that the greatest enemy of the legal profession is the legal profession itself. Because the legal profession is the only profession that I know that has a branch of government given to it by the Nigerian Constitution. So we are the only one that have defined code of conduct. So I do not see why we have chosen to allow those who have what looks like secondary school equivalence as their qualification dictating to us what to do and how to do it. That's why I don't agree that merely increasing the salaries of judicial officers will solve the problem we are facing in this country. The problem is much, much deeper than that. It's a problem of character. It's a problem of whether or not judicial officers and even lawyers should be competing in terms of those who have unexplained wealth. So our problem in Nigeria, in the justice sector, need a holistic review. And I suggest to us that even those who are in the system, we should have a system to weed some people out of this system. Because there are some people on the bench and there's some people in legal practice that have no business being in this noble profession. And the society look unto us for solution. We are lights of the society. But it appears to me darkness has overshadowed the light of the legal profession. And like my learned friend was giving an example, a situation where judges are appointed, a governor will refuse to swear them in because for one flimsy reason or the other. Why should that be so?
Well, maybe the governor refuses to swear them in because he's afraid.
Be sworn in by the president.
Yeah, SAN, maybe the governor refuses to swear them in because he's afraid that that judge will be used by his political opponents to kick him out of office.
Then why do you then talk about the separation of power? Because we have 3 departments of government. Each department of government should be independent of the other. And the founders of our laws had created checks and balances. So if judges have been screened and found appointable and have been recommended for appointment, then the governor had no business in not swearing them in.
All right.
The same vein, no judge should dance to the pander and dictates of executive. But today, one cannot say with certainty.
Okay, all right.
Whether indeed the judiciary is independent.
All right.
And I can tell you for free, there is no independent institution in Nigeria like you have in other climes. And until you have independent institution, Nigeria will not go anywhere.
Thank you, Jibrin Okutepa.
Look at our court
Thank you,
halls.
Jibrin Okutepa. Thank you very much. Liborous Oshoma, Jibrin Okutepa has talked about, said the politicians should allow the judiciary be. They should leave them to do their work. But is it about the politicians who are influencing the judges, to embark on some of these conflicting and very confusing and questionable judgments and orders? Or is it about the judges themselves who are allowing themselves to be used, opening themselves up to be used by these politicians? Liborous.
As a young student, not even a lawyer then, I can still remember I used to visit court, attend court sitting. Justice Maido, is late now. Justice Maido in the days of old Bender. You had Justice Omo Agege, Justice Maido, Justice Obiewski and Co in old Bender. Justice Maido in delivering a judgment, one of those days, I was in court. I just sat down. I always come sit by the corner just to listen to proceedings. In delivering the judgment, when it was time to pass sentence, he said he was going to double the sentence because one of the parties attempted to bribe him. That he was not even scared that the party attempted to bribe him. And the court was in a pin drop silence. Those were what attracted some of us to the profession as a vehicle for social engineering and re-engineering of society. But unfortunately today, the first step is people who are appointed, like I said, it's almost like sexually transmitted positions. People who are appointed, when you appoint people who are questionable, they will always want to do your bidding. And when there is no check, consistent check, there are no consequences for action, impunity reigns. So in that case, the man who is sitting on the bench, or sitting on the bench, who believes he owes his allegiance to the person who was instrumental to him getting to the bench, will always listen to that person who was instrumental. Secondly, recently, Governor Fubara of Port Harcourt, in addressing his current Attorney General, said, thank God your own SAN was not bought That means some persons, they purchased, seat for them. So a situation where somebody purchased that position for you, that person, you will always remain an errand boy to that politician. So you see governors are instrumental to people becoming senior advocates. Governors are instrumental to people becoming judges. People go to governor's house to kneel down, genuflect for their children to be appointed to the bench. And then they say, oh, yes, the son or the father is late, the father of the judge. And then when you get there, you're certainly going to do the bidding of the people who sent you there. Not because you are qualified, but because you wanted something and it's been given to you. And those also, they will always take a pound of flesh from you. So, and then you now come to, these are people who will grow through the ranks and they get to Supreme Court someday. And then you now begin to say, oh, look, we would have not had this back. So it's all a potpourri of so many issues, from the law school issues to lawyers come to bar, to, the profession itself. There are some cases where some persons have called for the sanctioning of some very senior lawyers, but unfortunately, they tell you we're testing the law. Situations where some cases, frivolous as they are, you see lawyers will take them before a judge, and those cases will be entertained. So it's all an issue an issue that the entire profession, like the learned seeker said, need to sit down and look at itself eyeball to eyeball to say, look, we need to do self-cleansing. And that's why it takes me back to the NJC, who should not be on just this ad hoc basis. And then you need to also have a strong bar.
All right, we'll come back to all of that very shortly. Liborous, I'm just trying to picture you as a young student, law student, sitting in the corner of the court. Maybe one day you do us a throwback picture on your Instagram. But gentlemen, we'll come back to you because I want you to tell us about your thoughts about the role of the National Judicial Council and then the Nigeria Bar Association in all of this, in making sure we sanitize the judiciary. We'll take a break, and when we return, we continue with the conversation. Welcome back. Continuing our conversation on the state of Nigeria's judiciary under the Bola Tinubu administration, which has yesterday completed its first day around the sun, 365 days. Liborous Oshoma, legal practitioner, another lawyer, Jibrin Okutepa, senior advocate of Nigeria, still with us. Senior advocate of Nigeria. Before I ask you, about the NJC and the NBA, Liborous reminded us of what Governor Simla Ifubara of River State did say, that the Attorney General of River State didn't buy his own sanship. So is it true that sanship in Nigeria is for sale? Sir?
Well, I didn't buy my own, and I have no intention of buying it, and I'm not aware that it's for sale. But if it is for sale, then those who purchase it should be told to return the rank to the rightful place, because I know that the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria is a rank of distinction, and I will not subscribe to anybody being attributed to have buying it. So I didn't think that is a fair comment on this prestigious rank, because outside of this rank, there is no any other way you can go. I think we must divorce politics and political statement with the reality on the ground. There are serious senior advocates of Nigeria of impeccable character, those who do not and have never polluted the stream of justice. I belong to that exclusive rank, and by the grace of God, I became a member of that inner bar about 13 years ago plus. To speak that a senior advocate of Nigeria bought the rank is an insult to the collective integrity of all of us. Let's not go to this kind of let's look at the problem that is confronting us. The problem confronting us today is much more than even the senior advocate.
We know definitely you didn't buy your sanship, but for a governor of a state who's been in politics and in governance for many years to say in public to his newly appointed Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General that you didn't buy your own SAN? He must know something, sir.
Well, I am not the governor of Rivers State. And so the person to whom the matter is addressed to knows what to do. Let us not spend valuable time talking about person. Let us talk about something that affects the collective interest of Nigerian people. And that is justice. If the judiciary has gone into comatose, either wittingly or unwittingly by action of the executive, by what I call executive terrorism in Nigeria, because the executive is all over, judges are intimidated, and those who want to do the right thing have no any other place to fall to. So we need to defend the judiciary. We need to whip them when there is a need to whip. We need to defend them when there is a need to defend them. Take a tour about all our courts and see where judges work. That's the one thing we need to talk about.
All right, SAN, please stay with us.
The kind of recruitment process.
Yeah, SAN, please stay with us. We'll come back to that.
Politicians must not bring in their agents to be on the bench.
All right.
That's the take-home point we need to talk about.
All right, politicians must not bring in their agents to the bench. Liborous, you wanted to say something about what the SAN said.
Yes. Yes, quickly. You know, in every 12 there is a Judah. We have fantastic senior advocates of Nigeria, and I also agree that my learned senior and Sikh Okutepa is one of such, my very good friend. I also know that there are fantastic judges in Nigeria, both at the higher and lower bench. But that does not mean that these issues does not exist. We cannot shy away from them. These issues are with us. If we're talking about compromising the judiciary, these people that are used to compromise the judiciary. If we're talking about the court system, for example, look at Lagos State. Fantastic court buildings, and they keep innovating every day. But you go to some states, you have attorney generals, some of them who are senior advocates, some not senior advocates, and then the courtrooms are next to nothing to write home about. In some states, governors give cars to judges and they expect the judges to say thank you always, not to give judgment against them, as though these cars given to judges are from the governor's pocket. You see a situation where it's a ceremony. You see the governor handing keys of SUVs to judges as if, oh, that's what should be. The budget of the judiciary should be charged to the judiciary. They want to buy vehicles, let them buy vehicles, and not governor gifting them vehicles. In some cases, you see judges take Okada to court. So all of these are issues that are with us. So you can't just talk about appointment of judges, remuneration, without also talking about all of these structural defects, talking about the people, the bad ones amongst us. There are so many bad people also amongst us. There are bad senior advocates, the same way you have good senior advocates. There are bad judges, the same way you have good judges. There are fantastic judges that I know, colleagues, classmates, that even as friends, that if I appear before them, it's almost like I will have to work twice as hard because they know me, that they wouldn't want to make it easy for me. But there are some persons also who, because of the relationship they have with some judges, they just say walk in the park for them. So all of this, it is the judiciary, the lawyers, the bar at the bench that we do self-cleansing. The politicians cannot cleanse the judiciary.
Interesting. Very interesting point you've made, Liborous. SAN, how can the bar and the bench do this self-cleansing? We hear that the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, my Lord Honorable Justice Aro Lakaide has invited the judges involved in the Kano State situation. The NJC has invited them for a meeting next week. An investigation will be conducted. We also hear that the CJN is meeting with the heads of the Federal High Court and then the Kano State High Court. What role, how can the NJC cleanse the system, and also the NBA, the Nigeria Bar Association?
Well, I have been a very strong advocate of a reform in the legal profession. And when I talk about legal profession, I talk about the bar and the bench. I think the NJC and the Nigerian Bar Association, the body of senior advocates of Nigeria, the body of benchers need to come together and fashion out a way of cleansing the legal profession. We must have a standard. We must have a boundary beyond which nobody should cross. And if anybody crosses that boundary, such person should be punished. The question of giving just light punishment to grievous misconduct must be done away with. A judge who is seen to have abused his judicial power should be dismissed. A legal practitioner who filed an outright stupid, frivolous processes that he knows is not correct should be debarred. Anyone who put a roadblock to attainment of substantial justice should be dealt with. I agree with my learned friend to some extent of the point he has raised. There are fine judicial officers. There are fine legal practitioners. But these fine judicial officers and fine legal practitioners are suffering from Nigerian problems. Integrity is a problem in Nigeria now. Honesty is a problem in Nigeria now. If you don't have capacity to negotiate your way out, you are not a good lawyer in the estimation of some corrupt clients. So a system that rewards evil cannot produce good. So what is going on? Some judges are put in oblivion because they cannot compromise. They are not being used for the good of all. Some legal practitioners have no clients because they are not one that can compromise. So the problem required a holistic meeting. And it is only the legal profession that can solve the problem that the legal profession has inflicted upon itself. If you don't accept to be used as a conduit pipe, no politician can come to you. No one should show and engage in what appears to be legal prostitution. If your own is just money for hand, back for ground, you are part of the pollution of the stream of justice. When judgment is devoid of justice, Nigerian people will talk.
All right. Thank you very much.
I do not believe that
Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Jibrin,
does not matter.
You've spoken so passionately. Liborous Oshoma, you've spoken so passionately. I think both of you are ending on the same page. It's been a reflective conversation right here as far as this issue of the Nigerian judiciary is concerned. I want to thank you, gentlemen, very kindly for your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much.
And that's the size of our package. But the judiciary in Nigeria under President Bola Tinubu's administration has made some strides, of course, but there's still much work to be done. From increasing funding, to addressing conflicting judgments and the journey to a functional system, it's still ongoing. But we need to continue as Nigerians to hold our leaders accountable and push for a justice system that serves all Nigerians. Thank you very much for your time. That's it on Politics HQ tonight. See you tomorrow. Good night.